Welcome back all. Today we are going to learn another technology, IoT access technology, long range wide area network. In short, it is called as LoRaWAN. It's a standard for wireless communication. It allows IoT devices to communicate over large distance with minimal battery usage. So that is what we are looking at from the beginning of our discussion, right? So whatever the devices we include in IoT network should use minimal battery usage because the devices are constrained. They'll not be having continuous power supply. They'll run on batteries. So the devices should communicate over long range. Long range because the devices in the IoT network may be deployed at remote places. Hence, it should cover the long range as well as the battery usage should be minimal. So here we can see in this diagram. In this diagram, it shows the data rate in the y-axis and range in the x-axis, where few of the technologies are grouped like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, BLEs, Bluetooth Low Energy, RFID and ZigBee are grouped under short range wireless communication because they cover short range. So here you can see the ranges, the coverage of the range is shown small, but the data rate, so few of them like BLE, ZigBee, Bluetooth are having low data rate, but Wi-Fi is having the high data rate. In the same way, these technologies 2G, 3G, 4G and 5G are cellular communication technologies and they cover a long range. 5G is more than any other cellular communication technologies, and also their data rate is also growing exponentially. Then we have other group of devices technologies, which is LPWAN, which stands for low power wide area network. So these technologies LoRa, Sigfox and NB-IoT are the technologies which come under LPWAN, and their range is the coverage of the coverage range is very high, and but the data rate is low. Because the data rate is low, as in IoT devices communication will not be very frequent. Few amount of data will be transmitted by the sensors, that too with regular intervals or maybe daily basis or weekly basis or so. Hence the data rate is very less, data rate required is very less. So data rate is less but the coverage range is very high, which is required for the IoT devices. So next let us see about the standardization and alliances. Initially, LoRa was a physical layer or layer 1 modulation that was developed by a French company named Cyclio. Later, Cyclio was acquired by Semtech, optimized for long range. So later it is optimized for long range, two-way communications and low power consumption. The technology evolved from layer 1 to a broader scope through the creation of LoRa Alliance. So LoRa Alliance is taking care of this LoRaWAN specifications and evaluations. The LoRa Alliance quickly achieved industry support and currently has hundreds of members in the alliance. Published LoRaWAN specifications are open, they are open standards and are available openly and can be accessed by the LoRa Alliance website. So here we can see the layers of LoRaWAN. So LoRaWAN physical layer is taken care by the Simtech and the MAC layer is taken care by the LoRa Alliance, but overall management is by LoRa Alliance itself. So here we have the frequencies at the physical layer and some modulation techniques. Then we have MAC layer where the MAC frame MAC communication is specified, and here the network layer where the protocols for communications are described like CoAP, MQTT. These two are the protocols which are exclusively designed for IoT networks. We'll cover them in upcoming modules. And also IPv6, 6LoWPAN, this we have already discussed. RAW also we have discussed, and other protocols and the application layer. So Semtech is responsible for physical layer while the LoRa Alliance handles the MAC layer and regional frequency bands. Overall, LoRa Alliance owns and manages the roadmap and technical development of the LoRaWAN architecture and protocol. So let us see about the physical layer of LoRaWAN. Semtech LoRa modulation is based on chip spread spectrum modulation. We will see what is this spread spectrum modulation, chip spread spectrum modulation, how it works we'll see, a video we'll see. Offers robustness to noise and interference. So this modulation technique will offer the robustness to noise and interference, and it manages a single channel occupation by different spreading factors. This enables LoRa devices to receive on multiple channels in parallel. So, a signal which is passing through a single channel can be received at the receiving end on multiple channels in parallel. A LoRa gateway is deployed as the center hub of a star network architecture. So LoRa gateway will be the hub of the star architecture. So we can conclude that it uses the star topology. It uses multiple transceivers and channels, can demodulate multiple channels at once or even demodulate multiple signals on the same channel simultaneously. So modulation and demodulation at receiver and sender on multiple channels can happen simultaneously. The data rate in LoRaWAN varies depending on the frequency bands and adaptive data rate. So what is this adaptive data rate? Is an algorithm that manages the data rate and radio signal for each endpoint. ADR algorithm ensures that packets are delivered at the best data rate possible. So we can the dynamically the network can take a decision on how the data at what data rate the communication should happen, and that network performance is both optimal and scalable because of ADR. So coming to the MAC layer of LoRaWAN, the LoRaWAN specification documents three classes of LoRaWAN devices, Class A, Class B and Class C. So Class A is default implementation optimized for battery powered nodes. So class A represents the battery powered nodes. It allows bidirectional communication where a given node is able to receive downstream traffic after transmitting. So it is a two-way bidirectional. So you can send as well as receive, but the devices are battery powered. So by default, class A devices are the choice. Then class B, it is an experimental uh, class which is reserved for future use. This class was designated experimental in LoRaWAN 1.0.1 until it can be better defined. It is reserved for future purpose. Then class C. Class C is particularly adapted for powered nodes. Class A is battery powered nodes, but class C is for powered nodes. This classification enables a node to be continuously listening by keeping its receive window open when not transmitting. So here the device should be continuously listening to the at the receive window for coming signals if it is not transmitting, but it should be continuously engaged. So if it needs to be continuously engaged, the power requirements are more, hence the nodes are powered nodes. This is the frame format of MAC frame format of LoRaWAN. So here we have MAC header, Then MAC payload, MAC header is of 1 byte, MAC payload is variable, and 4 bytes MIC. So MIC is message integrity code. It produces an authentication code for each message. LoRaWAN utilizes 6 MAC message types. The join request, so whenever a device need to join for the network, it has to send a message join request. Then the coordinator have to accept the device so that it can allow the device to participate in the networking through join accept. Then confirmed means it should be acknowledged, unconfirmed means it need not be acknowledged. Then uplink messages send from endpoints to network server gateways. So uploading messages, downloading messages through downlink messages flow from network server to endpoint. So it is reverse. So uplink message is from endpoint to the gateway. Here from gateway to the endpoint, or the network server to the endpoint. The topology of LoRaWAN is often described as the star of stars. In the previous slides also we saw that it is a star topology. The LoRaWAN gateway acts as a hub in the star topology. So here it is star of stars topology. So multiple stars are connected as devices to the major star topology. So here we can see the architecture of LoRaWAN. Here we have the endpoints. The radio frequency signals will reach the gateways. So it is a MAC layer. Here it is endpoints are in the physical layer. Then gateways are in the MAC layer. Then the backhaul will connect the gateways to the network servers. The communication happens to the network server. Then from network server, the data will be transmitted to the application servers. So this is how the transmission happens in the LoRaWAN. Then the security issues with respect to LoRaWAN. LoRaWAN protects packets by performing encryption based on the AES algorithm. So we have been seeing in earlier IoT access technologies also, all the IoT access technologies are making use of AES algorithm for providing security to the technology. So here let us see the LoRaWAN security, how it executes. So there's different steps. Step 1 to step 8 are given here. So let us see from step 1. Step 1, encrypted app data from the end to end. So it is from the end point, the data will be encrypted. So here the app data is encrypted. The second point is separate network encrypt to network server. Then that data is sent to the network server. So separate encryption for network server is applied here. Then the third step, LPWA device. LPWA is low power wide area device, which is here as an endpoint, sends a packet, then it reaches the uh, access point, all access points actually. So you can see 4.4 here. So it reaches all the access points in the range of this device. Then the fifth point here, NS decrypts using network key. So one level of decryption happens here. So this LPWA network server decrypts using the network key. Then the sixth point here, NS forwards packet to relevant NS network server. So it is not NS, it is actually AS. So NS forwards the packet to the relevant application servers. Then application servers in the seventh point will decrypt using the application key. So here another level of decryption happens in the application server by using the application key. Then the eighth point, then if after the communication is received, acknowledgement or response need to be sent back to the end device. So NS network server selects the best access point to reach the end device for the transaction. So that is the 8th point. So it will select the best access point. From there it will reach the device. This is how the LoRaWAN security is taken care of. Then the competitive technology for LoRaWAN is LPWA solutions and technologies are split between unlicensed and licensed bands. So we have seen in earlier discussion also, unlicensed means you need not have to subscribe for it, you need not have to pay for it, but the data transmission is not reliable. But licensed, you have to subscribe for it, you have to pay for the usage, and also the data transmission will be reliable. The licensed band technologies are dedicated to mobile service providers. In addition, several technologies are targeting the unlicensed band LPWA market to compete against LoRaWAN. So LoRaWAN is competing against several unlicensed band low power wide area network devices existing in the market, which is Sigfox is an example of such kind of a device, which is a competitive technology. Sigfox is a competitive technology for LoRaWAN. So here I have given you a video which shows the summary of the LoRaWAN. Let us watch this video.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Learn Technology in 5 Minutes from Makerdemy. And I'm Venkatesh, the founder of Makerdemy. In this video, we will learn about LoRa, the low power wide area network technology for the Internet of Things. You are familiar with wide area network technology like the cellular 4G and 5G, which allow data transmission over long distances. However, cellular WAN consumes a lot of power. How often do you charge your mobile phone? I charge my phone every day. Cellular WAN allows us to transmit large amounts of data at high speeds over long distances. The trade-off here is high power consumption. Now, let us think of an IoT solution wherein we have wireless sensor nodes spread over a few kilometers to transmit their sensor values via a network a few times every hour. Furthermore, these nodes operate on batteries that are supposed to run at least for a couple of years. These nodes can't be mains charged like your mobile phone. The data transmitted will be small and sporadic. Under such conditions, we need a wireless network that consumes very low power but also operates over distances larger than those of, say, Wi-Fi. Is such a network even possible? Enter LoRa. LoRa is an abbreviation of long range. Let's first get some confusion related to terminology out of our way. There is LoRa and there is LoRaWAN. LoRa is a proprietary radio modulation technology owned by Semtech and deals with only the physical layer of the stack. The LoRa technology uses a proprietary chirp spread spectrum modulation technology that makes the low power, long range transmission possible over the unlicensed.
So here you can see the
ISM band.
spread spectrum.
Semtech has licensed.
You can see the chip spread spectrum modulation. So here we have the frequency sent. You can see in the up chirp and down chirp, the signals are sent up way and the down way. So we'll see one more video which simulates the chip spread spectrum.
Licensed the LoRa technology to several vendors who produce LoRa devices. In contrast, the LoRaWAN is a communication protocol and system architecture for the network. The LoRaWAN deals with the MAC layer and application layer of the LoRa protocol stack and is open source and is managed by the LoRa Alliance, a non-profit association of over 500 companies that is responsible for the development and promotion of the LoRaWAN open standard. The LoRa operates in the unlicensed ISM band in the sub-gigahertz frequency. This means that you do not need any license to transmit data via the LoRa technology. The actual frequency of this sub-gigahertz ISM band for LoRa varies from country to country. You can find out the frequency band in which LoRa network operates in your country by clicking on this link. For example, in India it is 865 to 867 megahertz. To get some perspective, let us take a look at this chart, which compares several wireless technologies on two dimensions: transmission range and the bit rate. As you can see, the LoRa bit rate is quite low. It is in the order of tens of kilobits per second. But this comes with a much larger transmission range and much lower transmission power. In a LoRaWAN network, we have the LoRa nodes and the LoRa gateways. LoRa nodes are devices with the LoRa radio modulation capability along with sensors and microcontrollers. The LoRa nodes typically run on batteries that are expected to run for several years. Several LoRa nodes connect to LoRa gateways, which channel the data from the nodes to a network server, and from then on, the data is moved to a variety of application servers. In LoRaWAN, the LoRa nodes to gateway connection are in the form of a star network, and the nodes cannot talk to each other directly. Also, the communication between the gateway and the nodes is bidirectional, so that we can also get the nodes to perform some actuations like turning on some status lights and so on. Each node can transmit to multiple gateways, and the network server removes the duplicates and forwards the appropriate data from the node to the correct application server. That is all from me in this video, folks. If you like this video,
Okay, in this video we can see how the encryption happens using chirp spread spectrum. Just observe the movement of the signal and the encoding signal. So how actually it moves, in which direction and how long it travels. You can just see the signal at that red line. Watch the direction. See, now the direction changed. The distance also changed. The small line you can observe. So this is how the encryption happens using chirp spread spectrum. Now the range is varied. Okay, that is about the LoRaWAN and the chirp spread spectrum. Let us move on to the next IoT access technology, NB IoT and other LTE variations. So NB-IoT and LTE. NB-IoT stands for Narrow Band Internet of Things and LTE is long-term evaluation. The existing cellular technologies such as GPRS, Edge, 3G and 4G LTE are not well adapted to battery powered devices and small objects. So whenever we look through our back discussed technology, so whenever the evaluation happens, a new technology is used for some time and later we start finding drawbacks in that, and we will try to eliminate those drawbacks and come up with a new technology with advanced features. So that is what is happening here also. The earlier technologies like GPRS, Edge, 3G, 4G, LTE, they were covering a long range and also their data rate was very high, but they are not adaptable for battery powered devices and small objects specifically used for the Internet of Things. So they can be for power devices or battery powered devices but which runs on the smaller duration like our cell phones. The evaluation resulted in LTE-M. So after that drawback is eliminated, the evaluation resulted in a technology called LTE-M, which stands for Long-Term Evaluation for Machines. Work item, which is given by 3GPP. 3GPP stands for Third Generation Partnership Project. So this is alliance or a group of companies which are from different countries like Japan, China, US, etc. And they came up with some solution for the drawback through LTE technologies. It aligns with specific IoT requirements such as low throughput and low power consumption and decrease the complexity and cost of the LTE devices. So now the devices which are used are costly. So to reduce the cost of the devices and also to um, get a device which should consume less power, it is working on this. So NB-IoT specifically addresses the requirements. Narrowband IoT addresses the requirements of a massive number of low throughput devices. Narrowband means it covers long range. In the previous class we saw that it covers long range, less noise, less interference, and low data rate, isn't it? So low throughput devices, low device power consumption as data rate is low, improved indoor coverage. In previous technologies, we saw that some of the technologies are not capable of penetrating through walls, but it is having improved indoor coverage and optimized network architecture. The standardization and alliance of NB-IoT, 3GPP and associated vendors have been working on evolving cellular technologies to address IoT requirements. So it is a standard organization. 3GPP is a standards organization. It unites multiple telecommunication standards development organizations to provide a stable environment to produce the reports and specifications that define 3GPP technologies. As I told you, some of the countries like Japan, China, and USA, etc. So they are framing these specifications. So the earlier version of LTE is LTE Cat 0. The characteristics of this include power saving mode. This new device minimizes energy consumption and it works in half duplex mode. That means communication happens only in one direction at a time. It reduces the cost and complexity of devices implementation because implementation will be easy and network traffic is also less. LTE-M. After the LTE category 0, next version is LTE-M, which stands for long-term evaluation for machines. The main characteristics are lower receiver bandwidth. The bandwidth has been lowered to 1.4 MHz versus usual 20 MHz. The bandwidth is lowered. Lower data rate is around 200 kbps, but in category 0 of LTE it was 1 megabits per second, but here it is lower to 200 kilobits per second because the IoT devices which we use are they don't communicate very frequently with large amount of data. They communicate with small amount of data, and that too in intervals like hourly basis or daily basis or weekly basis. So data is low, the lower data rate is adapted here, and it is also a half duplex mode. It decreases node complexity and cost as earlier. Enhanced discontinuous reception, EDRX. What is it? It is the capability which increases from seconds to minutes, which is the amount of time an endpoint can sleep between paging cycles. So how much amount of time a device can sleep between the paging cycles? It varies from seconds to minutes. So here I have given you a video to summarize the LTE. So let us watch the video.
LTE, long-term evolution. Everyone's talking about it. Operators are embracing it. But what does it mean in the real world? This is the simple truth about LTE. LTE is 4G technology and a major step forward for the communications industry. It's extremely fast, efficient, and intelligent, which will make for an extreme communications experience. And that's great for delivering what people want profitably. Let me explain. It's a safe bet that people are looking for more bandwidth, better quality, and services tuned to their own personal profile. We know from experience that end users are only prepared to pay this much. The problem is that providing all of this extra stuff means that operator costs go up. LTE solves this problem through its very low cost per megabit. Also, lots of happy customers using great new services in itself drives demand. But meeting this demand is just the start of the story. Communication so far has mostly been about people speaking to people. The future of communications will be about all kinds of things speaking to each other through the internet. What the experts call the Internet of Things. Every coffee maker, toaster, car engine and goods pallet could be equipped with a low-cost LTE chip that will connect it to an ever-growing network. And according to even conservative forecasts, there will be billions, even trillions of these connections, each generating a tiny amount of data. Do the math. That's a lot of data. So the LTE business case takes on a whole new dimension. In fact, it's been called a key part of the largest organic growth opportunity in the history of business. Behind LTE, there will be a broad ecosystem. Many players will be involved, from handset suppliers and software developers to infrastructure vendors and chipset manufacturers. Plus, with LTE devices in billions of places in the Internet of Things, there will be plenty of opportunities for a whole range of new players to get in on the act. On top of all this, the switchover will be fairly straightforward. There is already a base station, the LTE-compatible FlexiBase station from Nokia Siemens Networks, that works for both 3G and 4G, which means that the upgrade to LTE can be as simple as a remote software upgrade. Extreme efficiency, extreme experience, extreme intelligence, lots of demand, supported by an unprecedented communications ecosystem. And that's the simple truth about LTE.
Okay, that is about the LTE. So next, let us move on to the next IoT access technology, which is NB-IoT, Narrowband Internet of Things. The definition of new LTE device categories was not sufficient. So there again, that technology device categories definition was not sufficient for LPWA, low power wide area IoT requirement. Hence, 3GPP specified narrowband IoT. three modes of operation are applicable to NB IoT. What are they? Standalone. A GSM carrier is used as NB-IoT carrier, so it is standalone, enabling reuse of 900 MHz or 1800 MHz. The next mode is the in-band mode. It is a part of LTE carrier. NB-IoT is a part of LTE carrier frequency band and is allocated for use as NB-IoT frequency. Guard band. The next mode is the guard band. It is an NB-IoT carrier is in between LTE and WCD MA bands. This requires coexistence between LTE and NB-IoT bands. So let us see these definitions in a diagram. So here it shows the standalone mode, here it shows the in-band mode, and here it shows the guard band mode. So coming to the standalone, it is used as an NB-IoT carrier enabling reuse of 900 MHz to 1800 MHz. Then the in band, band is allocated for use as NB-IoT frequency. So here you can see band is as a part of LTE band. So it is in band. Then guard band is in between the LTE and WCDMA bands. So it is in between LTE and WCDMA bands. So it is guard band. The competitive technologies for NB-IoT. The competitive technologies are mostly the unlicensed band LPWA, low power wide area technologies such as LoRaWAN. So LoRaWAN is a competitive technology for the NB-IoT. Here I have given a video to summarize the NB-IoT. So let us watch the video.
Ping. I'm trying to train my trash can. It should tell me when to empty it. And to ensure that it will be actually happening soon, experts are building a machine sensor network. And what that exactly is, we'll see now in Netzgeschichten. Millions of devices will be connected via the Internet of Things. This is a huge challenge for the communication networks. While today a few hundred smartphones may register in a radio cell, in the future there will be a few thousand devices or sensors. For normal mobile networks as we know them, the burden on the network would be far too high and energy consumption would increase dramatically. The solution for this problem is the so-called narrowband IoT, a narrow-banded machine sensor network. This network operates with 3GPP radio waves, which covers very big areas. At the same time, they are able to come through thick concrete walls and reach remote corners of a building, deep in the ground. The sensors transmit only small data packages once a day, weeks or even months, and so they consume little energy. This means they can be operated for many years without changing batteries. And this puts us right in the middle of the future 5G communication standard, which LTE forms the basis. Its smart network consists of different levels, the so-called network slices, which are programmed for different applications. And one of the network levels will use the machine sensor network. The different network levels will ensure that all applications can communicate reliably according to their requirements. For example, within the machine sensor network, vending machines will be able to report independently and early enough when they need a refill or have to be fixed. Street lamps can only be switched on or dimmed if necessary, and parking spaces will indicate when they're available or occupied. Narrowband IoT offers a lot of opportunities for different industrial sectors to use the Internet of Things. A prime example is the smart city, where a lot of narrowband IoT solutions are communicating with each other to make the city easier and safer. Can you think of any other things that could communicate with each other to make our day-to-day life easier? Then post it directly below the video and don't forget to subscribe.
Okay, so with the discussion of NB-IoT, we completed the discussion of the second module completely. So Here it covers our second module with the discussion of smart objects and the IoT access technologies, different IoT access technologies. So we'll be winding up for today, and we will discuss with the third module contents in the next class. Thank you. Have a good day.